raid team. Do you think such a thing even makes sense? Nam Jinwoo yelled out at the top of his lungs. Formerly a prosecutor, he now served as a member of the National Assembly. No one in this country came remotely close to this man's ability to sniff out and latch onto a person's wrongdoings. The association president Go Gun-hui maintained his silence as he sat on the opposite side of such a man. Nam Jinwoo was actually smiling inside as he was staring at his current verbal sparring partner. Indeed, even if you had 10 mouths, you'd not have anything to say. The victor had been decided already. No matter who it was, they would say this was Association President Go Gun-hui going too far. He must have known this too, because he showed absolutely no signs of counterattacking yet. However, Nam Jinwoo was not thinking of easing up here. His style was to keep up the pressure when the enemy was on the back foot. He'd push his opponents hard until they were driven to the edge of a cliff. Veins bulged in his neck as he raised his voice high, not at Go Gun-hui, but at the entirety of the third conference hall, currently filled to the brim with the interested parties and a cordon of reporters. Hunter Seong Jinwoo has barely finished creating his guild, yet you already wish to pass this nonsensical regulation. If this isn't the case of preferential treatment, then what is? Very good. Nam Jinwoo sensed his impending victory. Go Gun-hui's fame had skyrocketed recently due to him pulling off the Jeju Island raid so brilliantly. But now, Nam Jinwoo got to deal 2 powerful blows to that man, with the recent high school dungeon break incident, and the controversy surrounding the preferential treatment Hunter Seong Jinwoo had received. Basically, politics was a turf war of sorts. If he got to bring down Go Gun-hui, a man standing at the opposite end of the political battlefield, then Nam Jinwoo would get to enjoy his share of the benefits sooner rather than later. Nam Jinwoo was waiting for a cowardly excuse, but then Go Gun-hui went and threw a wet blanket on his parade. Yes, it is preferential treatment. His answer was short, but the impact it carried was enormous. Noisy. Not just the spectators in the gallery, but also the reporters and politicians were busy exchanging knowing or shocked glances with people sitting next to them, which only served to further add fuel to the chaos. Of course, the one most surprised among them was Nam Jinwoo. Did this geezer finally go senile? There is one thing I'd like to ask everyone that has gathered here today. An assault team comprising of 20 rank A hunters, or an assault team comprising of just one person? Hunter Seong Jinwoo. Go Gun-hui slowly stood up and swept his gaze over the faces of every attendee present as he continued on with his speech. If you were to accompany either one of those teams during a dungeon break, which one will you choose? No one could offer up an answer, because it was pretty much the same thing as the answer already being set in stone. There was no reason to answer back at all. Nam Jinwoo was about to say something, but before he could, Go Gun-hui was a step faster and continued on. A total of 21 countries, including the United States, Japan, China, etc., have demanded more information on Hunter Seong. Go Gun-hui waved around thick official documents for all to see. Every single one of them is hell-bent on stealing away Hunter Seong to their countries. Go Gun-hui took some time to look at the cordon of reporters, before shifting his gaze back over to the member of National Assembly, Nam Jinwoo. Our current situation is like this, yet are you really telling me that you want Hunter Seong to remain in our country even though you are not willing to do a favor this small for him? Nam Jinwoo's complexion was getting darker and darker. He could definitely sense that the tide had turned against him now. Unfortunately, Go Gun-hui wasn't thinking of letting his opponent go this easily. He kept his gaze firmly locked on Nam Jinwoo before throwing another question. Let me ask you this. Do you wish to see a repeat of the incident of Hwang Dong-soo abandoning us for America? Nam Jinwoo bit his lower lip. As Go Gun-hui put the documents down, he was now overflowing with a certain relaxed air, something he had kept hidden until then. Nam Jinwoo knew what that look signified. That was the look of the victor he used to make often, just as he was closing in on yet another political victory for himself in situations similar to this one. Honorable Member Nam Jinwoo, didn't you move house recently to a brand new apartment building located near the Hunters Guild? Nam Jinwoo's face reddened so much that even a casual glance could detect the change. What was your reason for changing your residence to a location where the cost of the real estate is several times more expensive than the surrounding area? If only his opponent wasn't a rank S hunter, Nam Jinwoo would have run over there and punched the old man in the face. His own face was now in the alternating shades of red and blue as seconds ticked on. I'd like to urge you to think about this carefully. If and when another rank S gate appears in our land, just who will step up to protect your life? And with these following words, Go Gun-hui finished the proceedings off. You will not be able to buy back your life even if you are willing to pay hundreds of times. No, make that thousands of times the price you paid for your new residence.
Meanwhile,
before a rank gate for the first time ever in his life. Yu Jinho's bulging eyes were trying to look up at the top of this enormously tall gate. He needed to look really high up just to barely spot it. Seeing how Yu Jinho couldn't close his mouth for the last 20 minutes or so, Jinwoo began thinking that his own reaction of seeing the rank gate back then was perhaps too reserved for a first-timer. Hey, Jinho, your jaw will come loose if you keep doing that. Sorry. Yes, my bad, Hyung Nim. It's just that, I've never seen a gate this big before. How would he even react if he saw the Guang and Rai gate, then? Jinwoo smirked softly to himself. Hyung Nim, will it be really okay to not hire any retrieval teams or mining teams? Nah, it'll be fine. Jinwoo summoned 30 of the elite-grade shadow soldiers that had been with him the longest. These guys will carry out those jobs. Yu Jinho flinched just a little after all those shadow soldiers suddenly appeared behind Jinwoo, but eventually, he began nodding his head. Good day, Seong Jinwoo Hunter Nim. Hello, Section Chief Wu. The chief of the monitoring division, Wu Jinqiao, received the portable magic energy measuring device shaped like a speed gun from one of his subordinates. Will it be okay if I go ahead and measure them? Please do. Jinwoo moved aside and the shadow soldiers all uniformly took a step forward. Wu Jinqiao began measuring the magic energy emission of each of the soldiers. Oh my god. His eyes were opening wider and wider as he checked each one of these so-called soldiers. He thanked his lucky stars that no one got to see the look of sheer shock on his face due to the sunglasses he was currently wearing. All of his summons are either rank S or rank BS. Indeed, Jinwoo had easily exceeded the criteria for earning the raid permit for a rank gate such as this one. Seong Jinwoo Hunter Nim. Please look this way. Please tell us how you feel regarding the very first raid of your guild, Jin. Was there a special reason for naming your guild as Jin? What is your relationship with the fellow founding member, Miss Yu Su Hyun? From just beyond the police line, the proverbial torrent of questions from countless reporters were barreling down on Jinwoo. This was the first raid Jinwoo's guild was about to embark on. So, countless reporters camped out here since early morning to capture this historic moment with their cameras, and inevitably, there was no more space to even stand around near the gate's vicinity. Jinwoo pointed to the reporters with his chin. I thought you were protecting my information. Yes, we are indeed protecting your private information, but regretfully, there's not much we can do about the locations of gates. Seong Hunter Nim. Okay, so, shall we get going, then? Yes, Hyung Nim. Indeed, let's get going. The heads of Jinwoo and Yu Jinho simultaneously swiveled back after hearing that voice coming from behind them. And that's where they spotted Wu Jinqiao, his usual black business suit now replaced by various armors covering from head to toe. I thought you already left, Jinwoo asked, puzzled. The association president ordered me to find out if it is really safe during Seong Hunter Nim's raid. Will it be a problem for me to accompany you? Well, the guy was just doing his job, so was there reason not to let him tag along? It'll be fine as long as you don't try to hunt monsters. My department isn't called the monitoring division for nothing, Hunter Nim. Please, come in. Go-Gun Huey's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets after he saw Wu Jinqiao's face as the latter cautiously entered the office. What's this? He expected there to be no problems, yet Wu Jinqiao looked as if he got dragged through a ringer instead. It's not just anybody but Hunter Seong Jinwoo we are talking about here, so how come Chief Wu looks like that? His confusion only lasted for a short while, though. Wu Jinqiao powerlessly sunk deep into the couch. He rubbed his face with his hands, showing how tired he was. Just what happened inside the dungeon. That, sir, that wasn't a raid. It was. It was. Wu Jinqiao raised his head, shock and fear still writ large in his trembling eyes. Sir, it was the scene of a massacre. The charismatic leader of the monitoring division, Wu Jinqiao, often thought to be possessing an inborn heart of steel, was speaking with a voice that trembled ever so softly. A massacre, is it? Go-Gun Huey swallowed his saliva. Wu Jinqiao replied without hesitation, evidently not even thinking of changing or denying his description. Yes, sir. Was there any other description that fit what happened in there? It was as the word suggested, a total massacre. Wu Jinqiao didn't hold back on anything and confessed to everything he saw at the behest of the association president. The dungeon was a nest of Nagas, sir. Go-Gun Huey narrowed his eyes as he combed through his knowledge of various monsters. If it's a Naga, creatures that resembled a hybrid of a human and a sea snake, preferred to live in damp areas, and experts of both melee and magic attacks, capable of giving many experienced hunters a hard time. Those points were the Nagas in a nutshell. They were also known as really tough opponents to contend with as they moved around in large groups, even though they were high-ranked monsters. However, But someone of Hunter Seong Jinwoo's level shouldn't be having a hard time against a handful of Nagas going around in groups. As if he had read Go Gun Huey's inner thoughts, Wu Jinqiao clarified himself. I even felt sorry for the Nagas at some point, sir. Hunter Seong Jinwoo's summoned creatures pounced forward and proceeded to mercilessly rip the Nagas apart into many bloody pieces. At least, those summons wearing black armors, like the humanoid types and the high orcs types, were a bit more humane. But then, the summons resembling bears and ants were far too feral even for his tolerance level. Some of the ants even began eating the corpse of the monsters. Hunter Seong Jinwoo became so incensed that he even physically kicked them. Wu Jinqiao began shuddering after remembering this one ant that tried to sneak a dead Naga's head into its mouth, only to get discovered by irate Hunter Seong. It got splendidly buried deep into a wall from a powerful kick. Although, he still couldn't tell whether he was shuddering from the horrifying summons, or from Jinwoo who could unhesitatingly kick a summon like that into a wall. Soldiers resembling humans, orc-type soldiers, bears and ant-type soldiers, not one of them could be called weak by any stretch of the imagination. But the biggest highlight of them all was, there was this one summon with a red mane attached to its black helmet. Wu Jinqiao raised his dipped head again and stared straight into Go Gun Huey's eyes. Would you believe me when I told you that particular summon could shoot lightning out of its sword every time it took a swing, sir? Oh my god. Go Gun Huey was feeling completely astonished now. The lightning magic contained the destructive power of fire-based magic as well as the speedy nature of the light-based magic. Because of that, only a handful of very high-class mage-type hunters could cast such magic spells. Even then, firing them consecutively was out of the question. But then, a summon could shoot such magic all the time by swinging its sword around. Go Gun Huey could only shake his head in helplessness. He definitely wouldn't have believed it if it weren't coming from the subordinate he deeply believed in. But then, the unbelievable story continued on even further. In my opinion, that particular summon should be above rank in terms of power, sir. Are you serious? Go Gun Huey's voice rose up higher. How could a single summon possess powers almost at the level of a rank S? Unfortunately, Wu Jinqiao guaranteed it. And he was right at the peak of rank A hunters too, ability-wise, so he knew what he was talking about. If I were to fight that summon one-on-one, honestly, I'm not confident of winning, sir. Indeed, if such an evaluation came out from Wu Jinqiao's mouth, someone with strong self-confidence, then it would be no problem to evaluate that summon as a rank S. The ants, they began working, sir. Wu Jinqiao's eyes trembled again as he recalled those scenes. Ants received pickaxes from the bag carried by Ah Jin Guild's vice master. And then, they proceeded to mine out the mana stones from the dungeon walls. Ants were also in charge of carrying away the mined mana stones as well as the remains of the dead monsters. Wu Jinqiao simply couldn't tear his eyes away from the perfectly organized ants and their unbelievably fast working speed. They were basically the incarnations of efficient operation. Wu Jinqiao was deeply astonished back then, and he was feeling admiration now. What I saw, sir, it wasn't something as simple as a one-man raid team. Not at all. No, this one man was capable of clearing a dungeon, retrieving the remains, and also mining out the minerals, too. Wu Jinqiao was definitely sure of it. And that would be, calling Hunter Seong a one-man raid team was actually insulting the man. No, sir, that man, he's actually an entire guild rolled into one. He was not a one-man raid team, but a one-man guild instead. Technically speaking, there was not that helpful vice master too, but nothing would have changed even if he wasn't present, so Wu Jinqiao's assertion wasn't wrong at all. Go Gun Huey slapped his knee. I knew it. My eyes weren't wrong. A broad smile didn't want to leave his face now, like how he had been anticipating it since the beginning. Hunter Seong Jinwoo would definitely go on to become the brand new ballast that keeps the balance neutral in the Korean hunter community. But now, he began to think that the youth might even go on to change the map of the hunters worldwide, too. And then, we finally arrived at the boss chamber, sir. The story hadn't ended yet. Go Gun Huey quickly refocused on the tale once more. Wu Jinqiao carried on. Normal Nagas would be around 2-3 times larger than regular human beings. But, he said that the boss Naga found within the boss room was easily 4 times larger, and the pressure it emitted was incredible as well. Did Seong Hunter use his summons to quickly finish off the boss-level monsters? Wu Jinqiao slowly shook his head. No, sir. He actually cancelled the summoning altogether, except for those ants busy with retrieval and mining operations. What? But why would he? Go-Gun Huey gasped out in surprise, and Wu Jinqiao could only reply with a stiff face. I was also curious as to why, so I asked him. I questioned him why he would cancel the summoning when he was about to fight the boss. Go-Gun Huey was so invested in the tale that, unbeknownst to him, he had begun leaning forward. And what did he say? Xiang Jinwoo Hunter Nim told me this. If he relied too much on his summons, then my instincts would become softer, you see. Jinwoo kicked the ground and dashed forward. Violent slash. Dozens upon dozens of silvery light flickered and descended on the lower body of the boss monster. Swish. The boss's head was sliced off clean and it flew away. At the same time, a new system message popped into his view. Jinwoo's expression brightened at once from that wonderful message. Oh, he landed softly back on the ground and spun around once. Strangely enough, the system messages didn't end there. Suddenly, he was inundated with a constant barrage of mechanical beeps. What's this? His fluster could only last for a short while, though. Jinwoo's eyes almost bulged out of their sockets at the rising wall of messages. He had been using his class-specific skills constantly, but they showed no signs of budging until now. But then, their levels all went up in one go. Jinwoo's heart began pounding really hard for the first time in a while. Currently, there were only two other people inside the boss chamber, and that would be Yu Jinho and Wu Jinqiao. Since both of them weren't the type to needlessly complain about small matters, he decided not to mind their presence and summoned out his status window. Jinwoo's gaze stopped at the class-specific skills list. Active skills: Shadow Extraction LV 2, Shadow Storage LV 2, Sovereign's Territory LV 2, Shadow Exchange LV 2. It's for real. Hearing about the truth and actually seeing it were two different things. Jinwoo clenched his fist tighter, especially from the fact that the level for Shadow Exchange had gone up. Nice. The Shadow Exchange skill possessed such an endless potential, but he was feeling frustrated by the limitation posed by its lengthy cooldown time. The description said that cooldown will change according to the skill level, right? With this, his frustration should go down a little. This was today's biggest gain for him. He was far more pleased about the skill Shadow Exchange being enhanced rather than his stalled level rising up again. Wu Jinqiao walked up close to the remains of the boss level Naga and lightly tapped on the monster's scales. He could definitely sense the steel-like hardness through his fingertips. Scales of Naga boasted amazing hardness, and they were often used in the manufacturing of all sorts of defensive items, such as various armors and shields. But such scales were. Some part of the scales on the lower torso of the monster were crushed and torn into pieces as if they were made out of paper. That was the aftermath left behind by Jinwoo's skill, Violent Slash, being able to produce such devastating destructive power while using nothing more than a couple of short swords. Cold sweat formed on Wu Jinqiao's forehead as he observed the monster's corpse. What a great relief that the youth was their ally and not an enemy. Jinwoo was utterly relaxed as he activated Shadow Extraction. Rise up. The shadow of the boss-level monster answered the call of its new owner. A hand emerged out from the shadow and grabbed hold of the ground, before dragging its body out from the darkness. However, the newly summoned creature was way smaller in size than what the audience was expecting to see. As a matter of fact, it was only about the same size as the summoned creatures created out of regular Nagas. Maybe it was slightly larger, but that was about it. Haha, Wu Jinqiao was so tense that his palms were soaked in sweat. But now, he could let off a wry chuckle. This result was perhaps an inevitable one. How could a summon created from borrowing the dead monster's powers be similar to the actual thing? That would be just about the right size, whether that criteria being its actual power or the physical size. Wu Jinqiao felt relieved for some reason after seeing the summon and its comparatively miniaturized size. Maybe, Hunter Xiang Jinwoo's powers have a defined and clear ceiling. Even if that was the case, Hunter Xiang's own combat abilities easily exceeded one's imaginations, so one could never see him as an easy opponent at all. Quite different from Wu Jinqiao's thoughts, though. Jinwoo was shouting out in elation at the unexpected jackpot he just stumbled onto. Nice. Was this because of the Shadow Extraction had leveled up? For the first time since Ygritte's case, the message regarding the strengthening of a shadow popped out. Jinwoo quickly checked the new soldier's information. Elite Knight grade. It wasn't that surprising to see the grade Elite Knight pop up like fangs before, since this guy used to be the boss of the rank A dungeon. However, its starting level was 13. Jinwoo confirmed that level and could barely keep his happy chuckles in check. Is it because its level is so high? Its power is not all that different from the original. He picked up on the massive magic energy hidden deep within its smaller body. He was actually puzzled by its different size, but he could make one hypothesis here. Maybe this is how it looked originally. That made sense, seeing that they were all Nagas to begin with. So, how could the boss be that much bigger than the others? If it used magic like fangs to balloon up its size, then that made perfect sense. Just like before, the message urging him to name this new soldier popped up to his view. Jinwoo didn't give it much thought and named it Jima. That's right. And so, a powerful new mage had been added to his shadow army, as well as to his new Naga troops, as well. With the extraction process now over, Jinwoo absorbed Jima back into his shadow. Right on cue, the dungeon began sending out warning signals now that it no longer had an owner. A faint tremor rose up from the ground. It was the signal that the gate would close in 1 hour. Yu Jinho stopped staying back and quickly ran over to his Hyung-nim's side. It's time for us to leave this place, Hyung-nim. Right? Yu Jinho took one last sweeping look around him and smacked his lips as if he was feeling regretful over something. But, Hyung-nim, this is a bit of a waste. His gaze was now fixed on the corpse of the boss-level monster. That thing would have fetched a handsome amount on the market, you know. What's the problem? We'll just take it with us. Hey? Yu Jinho's eyes opened up wider as he hastily asked a question. Hyung-nim, isn't that too big to take with us? Jinwoo smirked softly. It's fine. Reporters were thinking of leaving for early lunch, but then, their eyes nearly bulged out of their sockets after Jinwoo leisurely walked out of the gate. What the heck? Has he finished already? No way. Thud. The sound of something heavy stepping on the ground resounded out. One of the reporters dropped his camera in an utter daze. Crack. He didn't even realize that his fallen camera was stepped on by other reporters. No, he could only point towards the gate and stutter out in pure shock. I'll look over there. Or, more specifically, he was pointing at the massive, hulking giant of a monster stepping outside the gate. Or run away. No, wait. Take its pictures first. Hurry. Are you filming this? Yes. The reporters quickly forgot about the physical confrontation of a second ago, and hurriedly began snapping away with their raised cameras. They were inwardly fearful of the monster suddenly attacking them. But at the same time, their fingers continued to move at a blinding pace as if they had been bewitched by something. Fangs was diligently dragging the boss-level Naga's corpse outside the gate, but when he felt quite a lot of stares landing on his back, he slowly turned around to look. And he found that, not just the reporters, but the police, association employees, and even the passers-by on the street stopped in their treks to look up at him. Fangs was now suddenly overcome with embarrassment and sheepishly scratched the back of his head. Why did it happen on level 101? As Jinwoo drove back, he thought back to how his skills abruptly went up a level earlier in the day. Even though his mind was occupied with something else, his hands holding the steering wheel remained steady and controlled. Soon, the building with his guild office came into his view. Yu Jinho chose to stay back in the gate's location, saying that he'd wrap up the proceedings before going back to the office. The raid might have ended, but there was still one more step of handing over the recovered loot to the brokers to think about. I wonder, will he be okay? It was all good and well for a vice chair of the guild to be full of drive and energy, but wouldn't it be better still to hire dedicated staff members for matters like this? Jinwoo told himself to search for more employees and walked out of the underground parking lot. But then, he spotted a familiar figure walking towards the guild building from afar, and that familiar person also discovered Jinwoo staring back at her. Her steps came to an abrupt halt right then and there. He informed a shocked expression and began to backtrack one step at a time before she turned around completely, and began running away. Jinwoo was utterly dumbstruck by what just happened. The thing was, though, he could gloss over the reason why she suddenly started running away after seeing his face, but he simply couldn't. You think you can escape from me because you started running. Just who did she think she was dealing with here? Jinwoo was suddenly overcome with a streak of stubbornness and pounced forward with everything he had after activating his Quicksilver skill. Her eyes grew super wide in an instant. Her escape route had been cut off, and before she could do anything else, her shoulders were caught by Jinwoo's hands. And so, the foot chase between two rank S hunters came to a very anticlimactic end. My car is still in your parking lot. Right. There was an unfamiliar car parked in the lot for the last couple of days, wasn't there? That day, when Cha-hyun came to the office, saying that she wanted to join his guild. After they teleported directly to the association's gymnasium from the guild office, she forgot to take her car back and left it in the underground parking lot until now. Looks like she came sneaking back in to get her car back because our guild was supposed to be on a raid today. Too bad for her. She couldn't have imagined that he'd only need a little over 2 hours to complete the raid of a rank gate. As a result, these two young people got to meet each other again. She quickly tried to get away from him, but in the end was apprehended by him instead. "Excuse me, can you free up some time so we can talk for a little while?" Only a minute ago she was fleeing for her dear life, but now she wanted to speak to him. Perhaps she sensed Jinwoo's flustered confusion. Cha Hyun quickly explained herself. "Actually, Min Byung-gu Hunter Nim wanted me to pass on a message to you. He said there was something he wanted to say about your powers, Seong Hunter Nim." But how could that be? Jinwoo didn't have any point of contact, private or otherwise, with Hunter Min Byung-gu. And their one and only meeting came around when Jinwoo revived Min Byung-gu into a shadow soldier for a short while back then. Hold on, please. Didn't matter if what she wanted to say was true or not. This topic didn't seem well suited to be discussed in the middle of the street. Jinwoo scanned his vicinity once and then continued to speak to her. "Let's continue our discussion somewhere more private, shall we?" Shinjuku, located in Tokyo, Japan. A gloomy shadow was being cast on the